So the last time I was reading, Moxie the cat kept trying to say hello, so I figured I would introduce her. This is Moxie. She's our sweet little girl. All right, the last time we read the first part of chapter 9, which was titled The Library, and we're going to finish that chapter today, pages 146 and 150, in The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kamkwamba and Brian Mueller. And just as a reminder, I am reading this with permission from the publisher, Puffin Books. They're being very generous with their fair use laws right now. Okay, so, last time we read, the main event was that William discovers the library, and in this library he finds many books on the subject of electricity, which absolutely fascinates him. And I asked you to think about what do you think William's going to do with all this new knowledge? So think about that again. I'm wondering if this is going to lead ultimately to the windmill. I'm guessing that's what you're also thinking. So let's see how he begins that journey. About a month later, school ended for the semester, and Gilbert had more time to hang out. One morning we went to the library, but as soon as we arrived, Miss Sicelo hurried us to leave. "You boys spend hours in here taking my time," she said. "But today, I have an appointment. Just find something quickly." The reason it always took so long was because the books were in disarray. They weren't shelved alphabetically or by subject, which meant we had to scan every title to find something we liked. That day, as Gilbert and I looked for something good, I remembered an English word that had stumped me in one of my other books. "Gilbert, what does the word grapes mean?" He said. "Never heard it before. Let's look it up in the dictionary." The English Chippewa dictionaries were kept on the bottom shelf. I'd always used the one on Miss Secelo's desk, but given her mood, I didn't dare ask her for it. I squatted down to grab another dictionary, and when I did, I noticed a book I had never seen. It was pushed deep into the shelf and slightly hidden. "What's this?" I wondered. Pulling it out, I saw it was a textbook from America called Using Energy. And this book has since changed my life. The cover featured a long row of windmills. Though, at the time, I had no idea what a windmill was. All I saw were tall white towers with 3 blades spinning like a fan. "Gilbert," I said, calling him over, "don't these look like the pinwheels that you, me, and Jeffrey used to make?" We used to find old plastic water bottles in the trading center. We cut the sides into blades like a fan, drive a nail through the lid, and then hang it on a stick. The wind would spin the blades. A kid's toy. "Yeah," he said, "you're right. But these things are giant. What are they for?" Let's find out. Energy is all around you every day, the book said. Sometimes energy needs to be converted to another form before it is useful to us. How can we convert forms of energy? Read on, and you'll see. I read on. Imagine that hostile forces have invaded your town, and defeat seems certain. If you needed a hero to save the day, it's unlikely you would go to the nearest university and drag a scientist to the battlefront. Yet according to legend, it was not a general who saved the Greek city of Syracuse when the Roman fleet attacked it in 214 BC. It explained how Archimedes used his death ray, which is really a lot of mirrors, to reflect the sun onto the enemy ship until one by one they caught fire and sank. That was an example of how you can use the sun to produce energy. Now you think, what do we use to get energy from the sun? I'm sure you've seen them around town on people's roofs. Solar panels. Okay? Just like with the sun, windmills could also be used to generate power. People throughout Europe and the Middle East use windmills for pumping water and grinding grain, it said. When many wind machines are grouped together on wind farms, they can generate as much electricity as a power plant. It all snapped together. I turned to Gilbert to see if he was reading the same stuff. If the wind spins the blades of a windmill, I said, and the dynamo works by turning the pedals of a bicycle, these two things, they could work together. I remembered what the book had said about the dynamo. The movement energy is provided by the rider. Gilbert, the rider is the wind. If I could somehow get the wind to spin the blades on a windmill and rotate the magnets in the dynamo, I could create electricity. Now remember, William doesn't have access to electricity right now, so this is a really big connection that he's making. And if I attached a wire to the dynamo, I could power anything, especially a light bulb. All I needed was a windmill, and I could have lights. No more smoky lanterns that left us with sore throats and hacking coughs. With a windmill, I could stay awake and read instead of going to bed at 7 with the rest of Malawi. But most important, a windmill could also pump water. Now think about this. Why would being able to pump water be significant to William, his family, and his community? I'm going to give you a second. So I want you to think back to the drought and how the drought caused famine. When you can't water your crops, when you're relying on rain, and the rain doesn't come to water your crops, and your crops don't grow, and you don't have food, you then have famine. Hunger. If William could find a way to pump water using the energy created by the windmill, then he would be able to ensure that his family's crops were watered. Therefore, he would be able to prevent famine. So think about everything that William has just been through and how significant of a revelation this is. Okay? I love this moment in the book. All right. With most of Malawi still reeling from famine, a water pump could do wonders. At home, we had a small, shallow well that my mother used for cleaning. The only way to get that water was by bucket and rope. But if I attached a windmill and a pump to that well, I could pipe water into our fields. My goodness, I thought, we could harvest not once, but 2 times a year. So double the amount of food because you're not relying on the seasons and the changing weather to grow your crops. While the rest of Malawi went hungry during December and January, we'd be picking our second crop of maize. The pump could also allow my mother a year-round garden to grow things like potatoes, mustard greens, and soybeans, both to eat and to sell in the market. I began to get excited. No more skipping breakfast, Gilbert. No more dropping out of school. With a windmill, we'd finally release ourselves from the troubles of darkness and hunger. And a windmill meant more than just power. It was freedom. Gilbert, I'm going to build a windmill. I'd never tried anything like it before, but I knew that if someone else could build them in Europe and America, then I could build one in Malawi. Gilbert smiled. When do we start? And I said, we start today. All right, I'm going to stop there. So, think back to all the information that was just discussed in William's story and tell me, or think and keep it right up here, how would a windmill change William's life? All right.